fast forward, I did go to grad school, don't worry. So our first speaker, as I said, Jeff, I need to go ahead and come up, Jeff Otto, assistant professor in health physics at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He's also a PhD student because he doesn't have enough to do as an assistant professor in the biotechnology program of the same school. He has a background of 23 years in the United States Navy, where he was both a health physicist and a nuclear propulsion operator.
Thanks so much, Nicole. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming back from lunch on time. I know the conversation was stimulating at the tables down there. Like Nicole said, I'm an assistant professor at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm really here on behalf of Dr. Catherine and Dr. Wilson. I redid the PowerPoint a lot, but I put my name on it first. They're the original authors of it, and I'm here as well, supported by Joe, an audience from McMaster University. Back around the time our program started at University of Alabama at Birmingham, or I'll say UAB, because that's a pretty big mouthful. It used to be just a nuclear medicine technologist degree, and around 2015, ironically enough, the nuclear medicine techs were identifying through the professors like, hey, we don't have enough radiation safety support once we're getting out to our hospitals. And so around that same time, the ICRP came out and said, we're seeing a decline in positions, we're seeing a decline in the programs as documented through the Oak Ridge Institute of Science and Education, Scientific Education, which is the bottom graph, which has the most updated data from 2022. What we're primarily focusing on is bachelor's and master's level, because that's what we need to get our radiation safety support out in the private sector, right? So PhD seems pretty flat, because you got guys like me who have nothing better to do, like was previously said. So forward over the next 10 years, there's other resources, especially the ICRP in 2023, the call to action in Vancouver, which said worldwide we're going to have a need for more radiation protection professionals throughout the world. And so our solution locally, because it all starts local at the ground level, well, I'm not sure what happened first. We approached McMaster, McMaster approached us, because luckily now that I'm out of the Navy, I don't have to be a supervisor anymore, so I can just come to work and teach and do research. I don't have to, I guess I have to mentor some students every once in a while, but I kind of leave them to their own demise if I can. But we decided to collaborate with McMaster University and share our assets and share our collective corporate knowledge in the field of health physics to create a more robust, what the American Board of Health Physics calls it, a just qualified candidate. We want more certified professionals, because the more certified professionals you have, that's your top tier, and the more breadth of ground level health physicists you're going to have throughout the industry. And so we want to propel that at University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB. And so we are located at the School of Health Professions, which houses like physician assistants, nuclear medicine technologists, genetic counseling, and specifically we are in the Department of Clinical and Diagnostic Sciences because, like I said, we were an offshoot of the nuclear medicine degree until Dr. Catherine came in and took over the program and set the standard. Like all of our faculty are going to be certified health physicists. We're going to be active in our professional societies, whether that's the Health Physics Society or if we decide to go the ICRP route, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've got Dr. Catherine, Dr. Wilson, and myself. So we want to refine what it means to be a health physicist. So to me, I always explain to people, what is health physics? That is the study of ionizing and non-ionizing radiation and how it affects living organisms and the environments we inhabit. So we had some really good presentations this morning from Dr. Martinez and her colleagues about that working group, and that was real exciting because I went to Clemson and I was one of her former students, so it was really good to come back and reconnect with them in that way. But as a guide to establish what that means, I personally, when I teach my classes, I like to root myself in how the American Board of Health Physics creates a foundation for health physicists. And so as we see on the screen, these are the kind of focus areas that I like to control when I develop students in the field of health physics. This is based straight on the certification exam, which has been proven to create a quality certified individual that can represent us across all the fields of health physics worldwide. This form was at Lincoln County. So many students come to a program seeking skills to improve themselves in that field. Makes sense. I want to get a master's degree, so I want to be a health physicist, so I need to get a master's degree in health physics. But maybe not everyone has a background in health physics. When I was in the Navy, the last tour I did was at Naval Undersea Medical Institute. And I was the training director there, and we trained all different fields. We trained health physicists, we trained medical doctors in health physics because they were the supervisors of medical decontamination, so they could supervise the medical portion. I would also train corpsmen to do radiation burn administration as a technologist. So we had all kinds of different backgrounds of people coming to do one specific job as it pertains to radiation protection. When I was, for my health physicists, my officers, I had helicopter pilots, I had one helicopter pilot, I had a Chinese linguist, I had an IT person, I had some guys piloting ships, I had one naval flight officer. For one reason or another, they left their field and decided to come into health physics because it seemed interesting. There was a growing need for health physicists both in and out of the Navy. And so I put technologists in quotes because they could be anyone. You know, they might not even be at the level of a technologist, but if we can give them the science that they need and they already have that drive to be a health physicist, then I see someone that can be my colleague in the future. And so just keep this in mind. What I'm going to do is show you my approach to growing a technologist from someone with very little background, very little, just the kind of what I would say bare bones science. Okay. If you recognize this is Peloton. I'm a Peloton guy. I have a bicycle, a treadmill, and a rower. I do it every night. But I show this because this is my approach to education. This is called Power Zone training. And there's, right in the middle would be the zone 4 would be your functional threshold power. That would be, like, in my opinion, you are completely satisfied with your job. You're challenged just enough to want to continue working there, but maybe you're not growing, maybe you are growing, but you're right in the middle, staying consistent. Now, the balance between power zone training is aerobic and anaerobic conservation of your energy. Now, whether you use oxygen or whether you use your muscles and break them down to create energy, ATP, right? And so, if you weren't very challenged in your job, I would equate that to being at the lower end of the power zone training. It's stretching out this rubber band that creates a range of work that you can do to challenge yourself. Again, this is physical because this is a workout machine, but I like to think of this also in the realm of going back to school. Like if I'm at my job and I'm completely competent at my job, I'm not going to be very challenged. This would be kind of where I would be at in that scale. In the middle is that functional threshold power. Your oxygen is completely consumed on demand. No spare oxygen molecules left untouched. And then up above is where I tell my students, for the next 4 semesters, because we have a very fast-paced program, we're going to hit it hard. We're going to get everything you need to know to become a health physicist. And then we're going to go from there, and by the time you graduate, we'll have you ready to go work in the field that you hopefully had a supervised practice under, and we're producing a quality candidate that represents us well in the field. So let's grow this health physicist. Well, I teach radiation physics. Dr. Johnson's textbook is what I use, and I teach radiation detection. I teach, and I also developed a preparatory math and physics course, which is the minimum calculus and physics that you need to be successful through all of the textbooks we use in our program. There has not been, from what I can find, a quality textbook that gives a health physicist the science, the calculus and physics that they need to be successful in our field. I've had to do a hodgepodge of different sources, and I've gotten there eventually, but it's still in the works because I've only been there 1 year. But this is called rote learning. This is repetitive, fundamentals, derivatives, integrals, and then the bare bones physics that goes along with that. Now, typically academic programs in the past have been all about you sit out in the audience, just like you are now, which this isn't a classroom, so I'm not insulting you, please. But you're sitting there and I'm teaching at you, and then I'm like, go home and do your homework, and then I'm going to grade it. That's been years and years and years of that. But now, following the development of like remote distance everything because of 2020, 2021 timeframe, we've had to think outside the box. And so this diagram struck with me really well when I was thinking about this power zone training example. Thinking outside the box, this is from the 1970s. How do you connect those 9 dots with only 3 lines without lifting your pen off the paper? So if you've seen this example, you know it's merely shifting the lines, but you can't lift your pen off the paper, so you wouldn't have thought about that unless you reoriented yourself. And so in the same way, we have to think about how we can shift away from, that's supposed to say passive learning, sorry about that. Passive learning? Yeah, passive learning. We got to shift to active learning. And so, I don't want to go through and explain all of these. I have the paper linked down here and also in my references. But I've incorporated with Dr. Catherine and Dr. Wilson all of these different learning styles because now not only do we have in-person students, but we have hybrid students that work full-time as technologists, or maybe they're not even radiation protection, but they want to help meet our industry's demands, so I feel we need to meet them halfway by adjusting what we think of as good education. Okay. Also, reassessing training is not just instructional materials. Like I have a good PowerPoint, I do good PowerPoints, but it's not just the PowerPoint. It's how you control it, how you upgrade it, how you routinely document your items, how you get accredited, which we are working on. Getting ABET accreditation is just a very, very long process. So a lot goes into that, and just keeping ourselves accountable, and then being reviewed by, we have regional accreditations in the United States for our colleges. Ours is SACS-COC, it's a very long name. So, as you can see, our technologist bubble starting to grow here. Next is unifying all of those different concepts into one mold, like one form, one unified health physicist model. And so we do that by not only having advanced classes, like by incorporating, for example, I teach radiation physics and I teach radiation detection. Well, then they go on and do a radiation dosimetry class, which brings those 2 classes together and allows them to extrapolate those methods and modalities into making a dose for a patient or a worker. But we also have different research areas in our program, as you see on the screen: environmental, low dose, medical, community health physics, kind of a new term to me, but that's what they categorize the kind of the non-science, non-calculational style health physics topics, like where would AI fit in the health physicist world? We have students working on that in their supervised practices. Medical, and then the non-ionizing, again, kind of a non-typical approach to studying non-ionizing radiation would be the fusion-related concerns that come along with that. And bringing it back to McMaster collaboration here, we're working to make a international radiation regulation certificate. All I can say about that is it's in the works. From both sides, we're working on it. I would have never thought of this, having been in the Navy for 23 years and knowing only, I knew what ICRP was, and thank goodness they started making all those reports free, because there's a ton of good information in all those reports. But aside from that, I have no experience with all these international regulations, and we're going to have the ability to network directly with McMaster and learn from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. 2 minutes. So we got public speaking, professional development, teamwork, and then hopefully with teaming up with McMaster, we're going to be able to share some of our mentorship and our faculty can serve on each other's thesis committees. And then we have supervised practice, which I mentioned before. We have various supervised practice sites. Some of the best ones we have in the middle of nowhere in Texas. I've never been so close to a cow before. It's a weird claim to fame, but it is what it is. And then finally, a final thesis and capstone project. And after this, you can see our sphere of our technologists has grown, and now we've become a health physicist, hopefully. If you graduate our program, I'll be proud to say you're a fellow health physicist. But we're not done there. We still have areas where we can grow. So I thought I saved it because I thought I edited it in the folder here. Actually, I always want to improve myself for my family and friends. friends, which is why the top one said family and friends, but I actually went in during the break and came on the computer and I'm like, I never knew what a sustainable development goal is. I'm gonna add that in there. And I put ICRP in the bottom. This is all new to me, so I'm gonna change that up. But it looks like it didn't make the cut, it got reset. But we've got opportunities, even if you're just gonna guest lecture, if you have a need for an internship student, whether it's paid or unpaid, we'll be happy to hear about it. Let's just set up a meeting, and if anything, I can coordinate something with Dr. Caffrey and Dr. Wilson, because they're the program and assistant program directors. Here's my references, and I can send you the PowerPoint. Please, I have to get on the airplane really quick after this, but please take my email, and thank you for your time.